Good morning, student. Today we are going to discuss about the different types of methods by which we can measure the frictional power, indicated power, and again after that we are going to study about the heat balance sheet and apart from that we are going to study out different types of terminologies related with testing of IC engines, such as many of the efficiencies, some important terms, so that you can able to solve the problem based on testing of IC engine. So in our previous lecture, we have discussed the calculation or method to find out the indicated power. So in that we have used the indicator diagram, that is a PV diagram. So that indicator diagram will be drawn by with the help of this indicator, engine or mechanical indicator. So this is the apparatus by which we can draw. So here you can see that here, so indicator paper wrap drum. So here we can able to draw the PV diagram, and with the help of this indicator diagram we can calculate we can derive the formula for calculating the indicated power. We have derived the to determine the indicated power, PV diagram is required, and from that PV diagram what we did, we have finded out the area of which represent the work developed by the engine. So we have find out the area by considering the mean effective pressure, indicated mean effective pressure, and with the help of that pressure we have calculated the area of the rectangle whose length is acting as a swept volume and height is acting as a mean effective pressure, and with the help of that area we have finded out the work developed by the engine. So we are using the indicator diagram to calculate the indicated power. So derivation of indicated power we have find out with the help of indicator diagram. So here we have discussed while calculating indicated diagram the mean effective pressure. So what is the mean effective, that we have already discussed. So indicated mean effective pressure is the average pressure when pressure is acting on the piston during the expansion stroke. So we are calculating the average pressure in the stroke. So indicated mean effective pressure is the average pressure which, if acted over the entire stroke length, would produce the same work done by the piston as it actually produced by the engine during the cycle. So this we have discussed by converting the variation of pressure, and that triangle we are unable to find out the area of that triangle. So unable to find out the area of that rectangle which is having the variation of pressure. So what we did, we have used the mean pressure. We have used the mean pressure or average pressure, and with the help of that average pressure, as the length of the indicator diagram is equal to swept volume, so we have used the mean effective pressure, and with the help of that pressure we have found out the area. Means we have assumed that the mean area, the area produced by the swept volume as a length and height is equal to mean effective pressure, will be equal to the same area of indicator diagram. This is the same thing we are discussing over here. What we are saying, if acted over the entire stroke length, would produce the same work done by the piston as it actually produced by the engine during the cycle. So with the help of this we have finded out the we have derived the indicated power. So here, if A is the net area of indicated diagram and L is the length of the diagram and K is the spring stiffness which we are using in the indicator, engine indicator or mechanical indicator, then we are able to find out the mean effective pressure, indicated mean effective pressure. So that will be the area divided by length into spring constant or spring stiffness. So this formula is useful for calculating the indicated power. Some of the time mean effective pressure will not given in the problem, so at that time they will give you the parameters of mechanical indicator. So parameters of mechanical indicators are the area of indicator diagram, then length of the diagram and spring stiffness. And by using these three parameter you can able to find out the mean effective pressure. So you have to use this formula to calculate the mean effective pressure. Once you are calculating the mean effective pressure, you are able to calculate the indicated power. So we can see here, and likewise we have derived the formula for indicated power, and formula for indicated power is Pm, that is the mean effective pressure, L is the stroke, A is the piston area, and N is the number of power strokes. And this is for single cylinder. If you have to calculate for multi cylinder, you have to multiply with the number of cylinder, and as we are taking N in terms of RPM, so that we are converting, as mean RPM is not in SI unit, so we are converting that into RPS. So for that we are using the division of 60. So this we have already discussed in previous lecture, how to calculate the indicated power, and this is the basic formula for calculating the indicated power. Now we cannot measure directly the indicated power, and it is producing inside the cylinder. When there is a heat liberation is occurring, and due to the liberation of heat, there will be the pressure acting will be occur on the piston during the entire expansion stroke, and at that time the power produced inside the cylinder is called the indicated power. So that we cannot measure. We can measure the brake power at the crankshaft. So for measuring the brake power, we are using the different types of dynamometers. So rough brake dynamometer is the popular dynamometer which we are using for measuring the brake power. So what we are doing here, so this is the crankshaft, we can say this is the crankshaft. So this crankshaft is moving the flywheel or brake drum, and over the brake drum we are wounding the rope. So as the whatever the speed at which crankshaft is moving, at the same speed this flywheel or brake drum will move, or it will move. So what will happen, due to the whatever the power produced by the crankshaft will be restricted by the frictional forces of the rope over the circumference of the flywheel and after attaining the constant speed, we can say that the power produced by the crankshaft is equal to the frictional forces acting on the drum. So we are equalizing it with each other. We are equalizing with this. We can calculate the torque acting on the brake drum, and with the help of torque we can find out, we are equalizing that torque with respect to power produced by the crankshaft or power produced by the engine, and we can find out the brake power of the engine. So here what are the different parameters are there while in case of rope brake dynamometer. In case of rope brake dynamometer, we are using the two weight loads. First is the main weight or dead weight we are calling. So this is the main weight, and then we are using the spring weight. So RB is the radius of the brake drum, what we are calling as the flywheel, and D is the RB is the effective radius. RB is not it is the effective radius we have seen. So here D is the diameter of the brake drum, and RB is the effective radius of the brake drum plus diameter of the rope. So for finding the torque acting on the that flywheel, we have to find out the radius, and that radius will include the radius of the drum as well as radius of the rope through which only that torque is acting on the drum, so that with the help of that we can find out the power produced by the engine. So here is the we have already known that the power we can measure with the help of 2 pi nt, and this n is in rpm, that's why we are using 60. So you will get, this will be in watt, so we'll convert this 2 pi nt by 60 into kilowatts. So again we'll divide by 1000, so it will become 60,000. It will become 60,000. It will become so this is the basic formula to find out the power with the help of torque. So torque we can find out. So this is the braking torque. So from here we can find out the braking torque, W minus S into RB, W minus S into RB, and this is the 2 pi n is the we have taken. So torque we have replace the T with the help of this braking torque, and with the help of this formula we are able to find out the brake power of the engine, and this method we are going to use while solving the problem. So here you have to concentrate how we are going to calculate brake torque, or how we are going to find out the brake power, how we are going to find out the brake power. So we should know the dead weight and spring weight, and this will give you the net load acting on the brake drum, and we have to find out at what perpendicular distance it is acting on the flywheel, so that we can find out the torque. So once we are finding out the torque, we are putting it into the 2 pi nt by 60,000, so we can get the brake power. So same thing we have done, we have replaced the torque with the help of W minus S, that is the net load, and the perpendicular distance through which it is acting on the flywheel or brake drum, so that we can get the brake power. So next is a Prony brake dynamometer. Then again we are calculating the brake power with the help of Prony brake dynamometer, but normally we are using the rope brake dynamometer for calculating the brake power. So here we have already discussed that when the heat is liberated inside the cylinder, during the combustion stroke, and after that there is that combustion stroke is the heat addition process. After that there will be the expansion or power stroke will be there. In that stroke, what is happening, there will be the pressure will act on the piston, and with the help of that acted pressure, there will be the power will get produced, and whatever the power is producing at that moment, we are calling as the indicated power, and that power will get transmitted to the crankshaft. So we know that there are some losses are there when it is transmitting from the piston to the crankshaft, because it will transmit from the piston to the connecting rods, and connecting rod to crankshaft. So there will be the losses, frictional losses will be there. So while transmitting, there will be these friction losses will be occur, frictional losses in bearing, sliding parts will be there. So these are the mechanical losses. These are the mechanical losses. So we are deducting this power losses from indicated power. Again, we have to open and close the exhaust and inlet gas, exhaust and intake valves. So for that we are using the arrangement that we have discussed in unit number 1, how we are using the camshaft, and for that camshaft we are taking the power from the crankshaft itself. So this, whatever the power uses is there, that we are calling as the pumping losses, Again we are using the power for driving the auxiliary component like governor, water, lubricating oil, fuel pumps, means water pumps, lubricating oil pumps, fuel pumps, alternator, dynamometer, valve operating mechanism. So these all the three losses we are clubbing, and whatever the losses is occurring, if you are deducting from indicated power, and by we are deducting these losses from the indicated power, what we will get the, so IP minus these losses will get the brake power, you get the brake power. So these are the losses are there. So these cumulative losses we are calling as the frictional power. What we are calling? Frictional power. So this is the frictional power, whatever the losses are there, and by deducting this frictional power from indicated power, we will get the brake power. We will get the brake power, and this is the useful power. What is it? It is the useful power, or it is the shaft power. It is the shaft power. So this we have already discussed, and again we are recalling it over here. Later on, what are the different methods of measurement of frictional power? So once you are measuring indicated power and brake power, so we can measure the frictional power. So first one is the by measurement of indicated power and brake power. Second is the Williams lines method. Third one is the Morse test, and fourth one is the motoring test. So we will see the Morse test over here, because Williams lines test is not in our syllabus. And then in previously in G-Scheme there was a motoring test, but now this is not in your syllabus. So we will discuss about the Morse test itself only. So this is the Williams lines method. So I will give you a brief idea about this. So what we are doing, we are operating the engine at different load conditions. So if I am taking three load conditions, first, if I am taking the first load condition, second load condition, and third load condition, so we can say that if I am using the 25% of load, 50% of load, and 75% of load, so there will be the variation in production of brake power. There will be the variation in production of brake power, as well as fuel consumption will be vary. What will? As well as fuel consumption will be vary. So what we are doing, for different load condition, we are finding out the brake power and fuel consumption. We are finding out the brake power and fuel consumption, and we are using the this different values of brake power and fuel consumption, and we are plotting the graph. On the x-axis we are plotting the brake power, and y-axis we are plotting the fuel consumption, and with the help of these two constant value we are plotting the point. We are plotting the point for different load condition, and we are plotting a line through this point. We are plotting the line through this point. So this line will intercept on negative x-axis. So at what point it will intersect, that this distance will give you the frictional power. So that negative intercepts will give you the value of frictional power. So if you are getting the frictional power, you can calculate the indicated power too. So these are the description given by here. So third one is the Morse test. So we will take Morse test in next lecture. Already it is become of 19 minutes. So we will discuss the Morse test and yield balance sheet in our next lecture. Thank you.